Hey everybody, welcome back to Texas 911. That's me. My name is Curtis, and today we're going to be going through the Texas Topical background packet and looking to see what all it entails. So stick around. Texas 911. So today we're going to be talking about the background packet and all the stuff that it pertains. Now this is going to be the official Texas, the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement Officers application information background packet. It's at like 40 pages long, and I mean it asks for a lot. Now I'm sure that other agency or other states are going to be about the same thing. But this is basically what the information that you have to put here in Texas is. So we're going to go through it, but before we do that, please subscribe to the channel. Please make sure that you click on that like button, the bell icon, and all that good. Share this channel with your friends. Starting after this video, I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to try my absolute hardest to get this done, but I'm planning on doing a practice video on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So there will be a video coming out every day of the week, every day of the work week, well, the typical work week, Monday through Friday, on my channel. I'm going to be doing short videos on copying license plates, copying driver's license numbers, and doing like mock scenario type questionnaires or calls. So I'm going to have these up and do about 10 of them, 10 of each one. So it's going to have a pretty good little library of stuff, if you will. But that's going to get off topic for right now. But please make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss those. Share these with your 911 trainers, with your friends, with your potential new hires, and hopefully this will help them get a leg up in their 911 career. All right, so we're going to head on over here to the computer, and we're going to take a look at the background packet and what it's all entailed. So hold on one second. Let me move some stuff around, and we'll get right to it. I'm trying something a little bit new here. I'm not outside recording this, and I'm hoping that this does not be too distractful. Actually here in my little desk work area, so let's get on to this. Okay, so here is the main screen of the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, or TCOL, applicant's personal history statement. First page, I mean, a lot of this stuff is going to be just generally basic information, or I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but it's going to be just basic, basic knowledge, basic stuff that's going to be put in there, but there's going to be a little bit more. So here's the personal history statement. It says, do it black ink. Make sure that you read these. That is the really key. Make sure that you read everything that's on here on what you have to do before you do anything. So it must be in black ink. It must be legible, or it could be typed. If there's a question that's not applicable to you, use NA. Any space on this paper, there has to be something written on it, whether it is an answer that pertains to you or whether it's an NA. And we talked about this in the last video with the resume or with the application as well. But this is very, very important. The person that does my background checks, he will like kick them back and say these aren't filled out completely. So make sure you do that. Having complete information, having full addresses, zip codes, cities, states, all that, you need to do before you fill this out. And then any additional documents that you're going to be including with this, you'll need to do a copy of a social security card, a copy of your original birth certificate, driver's license. If you're here in the state of Texas, it needs to be a Texas one. Because you are required to change your address or change your state of driver's license thing within, I believe it's like 30 days or so of moving. So if you're moving here to the state of Texas to get a job, you need to have a Texas driver's license, because more than likely it's going to take more than 30 days. So that you need a copy of your high school diploma or GED, college transcript, photocopy of your diploma. If you've done a police academy, your certificate. If you already are an officer, copy of your T-call license. Naturalization papers, proof of liability insurance. Is here in the state of Texas, you have to have insurance. And then any firearm qualifications if you're doing for a law enforcement job or a peace officer job. Okay. First main thing here, yes, you're a U.S. citizen, you have a high school diploma, you cannot be convicted of a Class A misdemeanor or felony ever. And that includes like domestic violence. That's a big no-no. In the past 10 years, you can't have been convicted, pled guilty, or on community service or probation or deferred adjudication on a Class B misdemeanor. So basically, in order to work in law enforcement, any law enforcement job, at least here in the state of Texas for sure, Class C is all you can get, and that's basically a speeding ticket or some kind of traffic ticket. Anything above that, and you're going to be iffy on getting a job. Class B's you can get a job, but it's you're going to have to explain yourself quite well. If you're 40 years old and it happened when you were 15 and you have a Class B misdemeanor, that's not going to be really any big deal. But within the past 10 years, it's going to be a really big deal. And then, of course, with military service, any dishonorable discharge or other discharge based on misconduct that will keep you from being in the military in the future. Okay, so let's scroll on down here a little bit more. This is just your personal information, address, name, phone number, social security number, driver's license, stuff like that. Any licensing classes that you've taken, if you're becoming an officer, this would be applicable. Also, in the state of Texas, at least in my area, there are some academies for being a dispatcher. So you would put that here as well. Okay, now this is something that is very important. This one is any other agencies in the last 10 years and who they are, what agencies they are, stuff like that. Next is relatives and reference. First off, we're talking about the relatives. And they ask for anything and everything immediate family-wise. And if you don't have it, do the NA. Father, stepfather, mother, stepmother, spouse, father-in-law, mother-in-law, former spouse, or somebody that lived with you, and then all your brothers and sisters that are living, and then your children. Any children that you have needs to be listed on here. Of course, they won't contact them because if they're under 18 or whatever, they're not an adult, so they can't be talked to. But if you have any children above age, then they will be contacted in this background. References. References, you need to list at least 7 to 10 references of people that you know, such as family members or social friends, co-workers, military acquaintances, people that you grew up with, people you went to school with, your neighbor, stuff like that. Anybody that would potentially know you well enough to know your work ethic, your personal history, or your personal habits. Do you go home and get drunk every night? Things like that. Education. What kind of education do you have? The high schools that you attended or where you obtained your GED? Any colleges that you attended? In the state of Texas here, if you have a degree in a criminal justice oriented field, it will actually go towards your licensing. So it's like, I want to say it's like 400 hours or something like that you have to go as far as a law enforcement officer. This is not pertaining to 911 dispatch, unfortunately. But as far as a police officer goes, if you're watching this for whatever reason, if you have a degree, you go from 400 hours to go from your basic to your intermediate to 200 hours or something along those lines. I don't know the exact figures, but you get a lot less continuing education hours that you have to get in order to move up. And then any academic discipline, suspension, expulsion from high school, college, business, trade school, anything like that, any reason that if you got kicked out of school, you have to write it down. List of residency. This is your residency, and this is a little bit more explicit. It wants the last 10 years or since the age of 17. So if you're 24 years old, you only have to go back to your age of 17. If you're 45 years old, you only have to go back to 35. And you want to list every residence, whether you live there for a month or whether you want to live there for 10 years. Make sure that you put the street, drive, road, east, west, etc., apartment numbers. Don't do P.O. boxes. Any military bases that you might have been on. You need to put as much information as you can there. And just basically, like I said, make sure you read the directions at the top of each section and fill it out to the best of your ability, but with as much information as you can, and with NAs on blank spaces. So, like, for example, if this is the residence here, okay, so in my place, I would have the current resident, where I live at now. I've lived here for 5 years. And in my former address, I lived there for 15 years. So I would only need 2 of these. All those, every blank in those sections, I would have to put in A. Okay, and as far as if you had any roommates when you were in college or when you were growing up or whatever, wherever you lived at, any house that you lived at, if you had any roommates, whether they were your girlfriend, boyfriend, or whether they were just roommates and they rented a room from you or whatever, you have to provide that information. Names, addresses, relationship, contact number, email, anything like that, any way that they can get in contact with them, and they will get in contact with them. They want, as in a law enforcement job, they want to know not only how you are to the public, when you're on duty, but also how you act off duty, because it doesn't matter whether you're on duty or off duty. Your performance reflects on the agency that you worked for. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you're off duty or on duty. You could be at a bar or something like that and drive home drunk, get arrested, and guess what? The news media is going to catch on to that. Oh, such and such officer or such and such dispatcher was arrested last night for drunk driving. That's going to make the news. You're a public person. So they want to know how you are inside and outside the job. Have you ever been evicted? Have you ever left residence owing rent? Stuff like that. Job experience. Have you ever served as a peace officer, jailer, telecommunicator in Texas or in another state? And then you're going to want to list all your jobs that you've had in the past 10 years, including part-time, temporary, self-employment, and volunteer work. And then list all periods of unemployment in excess of 30 days. So they want to know everything that's happened to you in the last 10 years as far as your work history goes. What jobs you had, when you haven't had a job, etc. All right, let's see. Next up we have, this is where you list your periods of employment. At the bottom of each section you'll see there, it says periods of unemployment and why. Student, between jobs, leave of absence, travel, other, and then your to and from dates. All right. A lot of job spots here, so let's move on down. And then they want to know, have you ever been disciplined at work? Have you ever been released or fired or been put on probation? Have you ever been asked to resign? Have you ever been in a fight, a physical altercation with a supervisor, coworker, or customer? Have you ever resigned without giving your 2 weeks notice? We talked about that in the last video. It's good. It's always good to give a 2 weeks notice. Anymore is not so much the norm, unfortunately. A lot of times it's you just quit. You just don't show up, and unfortunately that's a bad habit to get into. Whether you like the company, the place that you work for or not, you should always give them a 2 weeks notice. Now they may turn around and say, well, since you've turned in your 2 week notice, you can go ahead and go. And if they don't pay you for those last 2 weeks, that's stupid for them, or that's bad for them. But still, they may do that. So, and that's what happened on the job I had before I started my 911 career. I turned in my notice on Friday for 2 weeks, and he says, well, it's been my experience in the last 45 years that I've been running a business that once you turn in your notice, you're no longer working for me. Really, you're just kind of taking my money, so you can go ahead and go. And then I started my normal career the following Monday. All right. Have you ever resigned in lieu of termination? Have you ever been accused of sexual harassment, racist sexual harassment by somebody else? Any written complaints counseled for leave of absence being late or due to lateness or absences, unsatisfactory performance review. And this is really a big one here. Have you sold, released, or given away legally confidential information? Anything that we run as a dispatcher is confidential information. None of that can be released to the public by us. There are some things like a call card or something like that that can be obtained through an open records request, but we as dispatchers are not in that position to release that information. So don't ever give out information to the public, and that includes somebody calling in and say, hey, I want to see if I have a warrant. You can't get that information out over the phone. Definitely not over the phone. You can't do it in person either. But here's the kicker: if they come in, they show them your ID, and say, "I want to see if I have any warrants." You can run them, but then the officer has to tell them whether they have them or not. And if they have them, more than likely, they're going to be arrested. So that's the kicker. Okay, let's move on. We're already at 15-minute mark here. Actually, more than 15-minute mark. Okay, finances. They're going to ask you everything and anything to do with your finances. What your income is, if you have any other income, what your approximate outflow is. Have you ever done bankruptcy, been stuff repossessed? Have you ever had your wages garnished, tax levied? All that stuff, because they want to know if you're a responsible person in your personal life, so that you're not tempted as an officer, because things come up as an officer or as a dispatcher, information comes up, things come up, and stuff happens, and they want to make sure that you're good and honest, and that you don't have any financial problems that could potentially not get you to be hired. Okay, any arrests, convictions, or citations that you ever get in your entire history since you've been driving, since you've been eligible for a ticket or warning or whatever. Any detentions or arrests, whether they resulted in a conviction or not. All convictions, all diversion programs, all citations, excluding traffic tickets. Any Class C's for disorderly conduct, prostitution, assault, etc., without the actual arrest. And then, have you ever been detained for investigation or held for suspicion, questioned, fingerprint, arrested, indicated, criminally charged, or convicted of any misdemeanor or felony charge in this state or any other? And that could be, anything. Have you ever been on probation? Have you ever illegally possessed a firearm or ammunition? Have you ever had a civil lawsuit? Have you ever had the police called to your home for any reason? Have you ever had any CPS interdiction with your kids? Any emergency protective order, restraining order, or stay away order? And then undetected acts, things that you've done that you haven't got caught at. So if you've used marijuana or something like that, you need to make sure that you put that. If you have assaulted somebody and charges were brought, police weren't called, whatever, but you've been in a fight, yeah, basically. Have you ever given your kids beer or given another kid beer? That's contributing to delinquency of a minor. Actually, no, not that one. That would be providing alcohol to an underage person. Delinquency would be like keeping your kids home from school without reason. Driving under the influence, been drunk in public, had a hit and run, illegal gambling, indecent exposure. And this is even so far as mooning somebody. Back when I was a kid, you drive down the road and moon somebody, whatever. And then, more in-depth things: arson, assault with deadly weapon, burglary, child molestation, anything like that. If you got this, you're probably not going to click yes or check yes. You're probably not going to be hired. You're probably not even going to apply for this job. Okay. Have you, any recreational drugs? Anything, amphetamines, methamphetamines, GHB, marijuana, steroids, anything like that, or any non-prescribed drugs or prescribed drugs. Have you ever done anything like that and abused them? Let's see. Your driver's license information needs to be put on here. Any vehicles that you have. Have you ever been refused to be able to drive another state or get a license? Have you ever had your license revoked? Because you have to have your license to drive a vehicle. And if you're an officer, you have to have it to drive the patrol car. Dispatcher, not so much, but, hey. List your liability insurances, any traffic citations that you've had. Have you ever been involved as the driver of a motor vehicle accident in the past 7 years? Where it was, what agency it was, because they're going to pull the accident report. They're going to get that. Have you ever driven a vehicle without auto insurance as required by law? Have you ever hit or physically overpowered your spouse, romantic partner, or other family members? That's domestic violence. That is an automatic disqualifier because you cannot get your license if you have any domestic related incidents. List your social media sites: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. And that is pretty much it. So, that is the background packet. This video went a little bit longer than I expected it to, but I knew it was going to be long because it is a very big packet. But just make sure that you read everything. Make sure that you write NA and any blanks that don't have that, because if the person that's doing your background check is very peculiar, they will kick the background packet out. Either have to refill it if they really want you bad enough, or your name will just be tossed and you won't ever get a call back. But anyways, that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me an email or leave them in the comments below, and I will try my best to answer them to the best of my ability. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss any of the videos. Please share this with any other 911 training officers that you know, or in your agencies. Like I said, I'll be doing some extra videos for training purposes, so I think they will be very good for any new hires that you get, or any rookies that you have, to help them out. That is my goal here. If anybody has any ideas of any kind of videos or training they would like to see on this channel, please shoot me an email and I will be glad to do something if it is within my ability. I will put my email address in the description below. And I guess with that, that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, stay safe out there.